Hi, welcome to the Divorce Vault. I'm Melissa Gregg, a financial mediator and valuation expert for almost 25 years. So I have been helping couples, women, and families try to take control of their divorce strategy. So we have been affiliated we created the Divorce Allies, which is a group of experts and professionals that help people get divorced in a more efficient manner, I would say. We also have the Divorce Vault, which is basically all of our guides and tutorials and simulations. And one of the things that we're doing is creating the divorce system, which is really a system of working with professionals in a more efficient way, I would say. But today, one of the questions that I want to answer, and I kind of have maybe a little bit of a presentation as well, but one of the things that I think couples really struggle with is moving through the court system. And the court system is inefficient, it's awkward, it doesn't really help you get through very well. So, one of the things that we created, and we are streaming this presentation live as well on YouTube if you need some of the summary or overview or exhibits and things that I'll be presenting. But we'll also answer any questions that you have about finances and divorce. And really, this is specifically focused on finances. So this is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. I am a financial strategist and a settlement negotiator. I also value businesses and have been doing that for 20 plus years. So this is calculating, and a lot of what we talk about is calculating issues in gray areas. And gray areas are when you think that there is value or separate assets or a value to a business or a value to a piece of property. And there are areas that you're going to argue about. So those are going to be the gray areas. So regardless of what those areas are, if you come prepared with your documents and strategy and an offer, you're going to be a lot better in this process than the other side. So even if the other side is toxic or controls all the money, this is still going to be a little bit of a better way to go about things. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is why we created this divorce system. And the divorce system that we go about can either prep you as individuals going into this process, or it can prep you as a couple. So just because your spouse is super toxic, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to be willing to go through a structured process, right? So everything else in divorce is kind of unstructured, which is why some of it hasn't worked in the past. And quite frankly, we even created the divorce system as a way of bringing in kind of the best financial people. So you work with a base kind of settlement package, if you will, and then you add the people that you need. So if you need a housing analysis, or if you need a parenting plan, or if you need like a forensic or a financial income analysis, or if you need help with your budgeting. So it's really starting to pull together the right people at fixed costs so that each person that you hire in, you know what to expect, you know what they're going to provide. And realistically, we're putting these professionals together because we believe if both of you come more prepared and understand the full financial options, then you can make the best decision for yourself. Now, currently, the family court system is failing because we're not actually doing that. We're not getting both sides prepared. It is a system that allows for financial abuse. It is a system that allows people to not provide documents in discovery. And there's really no police or enforcement of the rules in the system, the court system, the family court system. And so in the family court system, it really doesn't allow for both sides to be fairly educated and aware of the financial reality. And quite frankly, negotiations fail because both people are not willing to face the financial reality of their situation. And again, it could be that you don't know your financial situation, which I completely understand, but it also means that if the court system doesn't allow you to have the documentation, if the court system doesn't force the toxic spouse to really commit to providing the documentation, and there's no sanctions or issues for that person. And I know some people could come on here and say, okay, well, my court was able to enforce it. That's great, but the majority of courts around the country are not enforcing this. And so what takes so long in the system, and I'm sure all of you can agree, is that we are in a situation where we're basically one person has all the knowledge, one person has all the money to pay for a big team, one person has all of the ability to manipulate the information or kind of, force somebody to give up. So currently, if the court system required everybody to provide the documentation, which in theory is what it claims it does, it just doesn't actually enforce that in any cohesive way. So what happens is you actually have to have a lawyer or legal team to kind of fight for you to get those documents. And if you don't have enough money to pay a team to fight for you to even get the documents to make an offer, to understand the financial reality, a lot of people, I see couples are more than willing, or individuals are more than willing to give up something if they understand what they're giving up. And so it's not something that you just want to say, oh, okay, well, I'll let go of that asset because you said it wasn't worth much. That's not how this works. And so mediation in some capacity could also fail. And the reason why mediation is going to fail is because, again, you're going in and, feel free to comment or to ask questions, but you're going into mediation without all of the documents. And if you're not going in with all the documents, then guess what? You don't have a clear picture. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's the system is encouraging you to negotiate under kind of subpar conditions. It's like if you go to buy a house and you go and do an inspection, you want to know everything about the house before you buy it. Now, in divorce, they're like, hey, you're going to go buy that house, but it's like sight unseen. You don't need to go into it. You don't get to get all the documentation. You don't get to know all the things. And that's going to fail because the system is going to allow you to make decisions without proper documentation or information. And quite frankly, in the future, you're not necessarily going to have a good position to go back and fight for that. So if somebody's like, oh, you can fight for that later, it's still going to require money to get in the system. Like, what is the major issue of why things are not getting settled? Because of money that's being used against somebody, money that is being used as leverage. And so at some point in this process, if you don't have the money to hire a team to fight your spouse, or if you don't have the money to go in and get all the documentation, subpoenas, motions to compel and all of these things, then you need to work smarter and go a more efficient route. Now, that doesn't mean that your spouse is going to be willing to do this, but it's that you are going to provide them with an option that they could work together. And it's interesting because somebody I can see in some of the comments that's here had this same situation where they went to their spouse and they said, hey, we could work together and pay a certain amount, like let's call it $7,000 to work together, and their spouse came back and said, you know what, I don't want to work with that person. I don't want to work with Melissa. I want to work with another person who's going to charge us $15,000 to go do it. And of course, it was like, well, why would we do that and pay double the money? So a lot of times you have to either convince your toxic spouse to take a more efficient route. You have to show them, but at the end of the day, realistically, even if they're toxic, do they want to spend twice as much to get everything done? Probably not. But if they're using money against you as leverage to try to get you to stop negotiating, then obviously that's going to be a manipulation tactic, and you need to be doing some things on your own. That is why we created the Divorce Vault. We created guides for every stage of the process, and we're creating more. But this new divorce system, or even the Divorce Vault and all of these downloads, like, you need to be working with people that help you get through the process. Because quite frankly, if you want other people to do it for you, that's where it gets super expensive. So kind of, let's see. Obviously now I have to get rid of people, but anyway. Okay, so one of the things that I thought would be interesting is like this divorce system that we talk about, and then I'll get to all of your questions. Trust me, stay with me, I'll get to them. But when we created the divorce system, what we were looking at is if you have two people that come really prepared. Now it doesn't mean that what you have to do if money is the biggest issue is you have to level the playing field. So you either have to level the playing field from an education or, information standpoint, or you have to level the playing field by money, by control. And so if one person controls all of the stuff, then you have to have the other person, and both people have to be educated. So entering into a system where you're both agreeing, and it's sort of like arbitration, sort of like binding media, like whatever this is, you're both entering in with full knowledge of the situation. So that means that in order for you to go through our divorce system, both of you are going to have to upload all of the documents that you have that we've requested. I mean, a key part to really negotiating well is having both parties have access to all the documents. So our system is not for people who want to manipulate. They're not for people that want to try to deceive, but it is for people that have some mistrust, right? So a lot of times we mistrust our spouse. So we think there's hidden assets. We think there's missing money. We think all of these things are happening. And then your team is going to tell you to spend $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, and you may not result in any forensic information that you can actually use in the court. And that is a big issue, okay? So in my mind, everything needs to be taken in phases. So if you get the documents and you review the documents, then you should be coming up with some of the issues and saying, hey, forensic, go down this path, go down that path. I already saw some of it. So the divorce system is for people that actually want to get a little bit involved in their process. They want some more control over it. They may have some complicated issues, financial issues, right? So the complicated financial issues could be valuations of pensions or RSUs or businesses. But it could also be just hidden assets and some, even running personal expenses through the business, or, missing income. So they're not reporting all the income in their business, or the tax returns are kind of maybe not fraudulent, but certainly not true, right? So it's designed for people that have an icky, sticky, mucky situation that the courts are not actually fixing. Right? It's designed for people that have, issues that they're concerned about, but it's going to cost $20,000 to come to an agreement with that issue. So what we do is we pull in experts that are basically going to work with both of you. So like in this situation, if a couple comes in, you're going to actually both have a strategy session with me, right? And the purpose of that is to get both of you really intelligent about your situation, but to also get you very smart about what you want. Stop negotiating and taking what somebody else has or wants because they're toxic or you want to get back at them. This is not the time to try to get back at a spouse by taking some asset that you don't want because you think it's going to hurt them. Okay. What ends up happening is a highly manipulated or a manipulative person is going to always win and trick you into taking assets just for the hell of it. Okay. So this is actually more geared towards looking at the true picture. But in our system, it means that you have to spend time in preparation. You have to spend time in both of you collecting documents, both of you uploading documents, both of you providing all of the documentation. It doesn't mean that we have to have easy situations. It doesn't mean that we have to have easy financial situations. It means that everybody has to be transparent about the documentation. And so those are the things that we're missing in mediation, in litigation, in court. Everybody does not get all the documentation, right? And the person that wants to hide things just has to be like, hey, I'm not going to give it to you. Hey, I don't care, right? Let the court come after me. Let the court sanction me, right? You know, these people who are toxic don't care about laws. They don't care about rules. And they certainly don't care about somebody coming after them, right? So they're going to be like more like prove it kind of situation. So in the preparation phase, and this is a phase that you can go through as well. So either you can do this by yourself or you do this with your spouse. But either way, you have to get yourself prepared. Collecting documents, collecting little pieces of evidence. You don't have to have everything, but you have to have an idea of what is happening. Even if you're going into mediation, don't go into mediation saying, well, I looked at Zillow and Realtor and I figured out what the price of my house was. No. Get a CMA, get a limited scope appraisal, call a realtor, get some comps, understand what the value is. Are you going to have any tax ramifications on the sale of that asset? Are you going to have any other expenses? Like all of these things are kind of important if you're going to move forward. So the preparation is you pulling together all the missing pieces. To make a settlement offer, you don't have to have everything, but you have to have enough to be slightly dangerous, right? And I want it to be like some foundation or backing in the actual documents. So it could take you 1 to 3 months to prep, to even make an offer, to get your documents together, to pull your team together. And when we come in as consultants, which is typically what we're introduced at, we're pulled in as consultants, and then we kind of get the team realigned with actual strategy. Because I think right now, if you have been getting divorced for like 6, 12, 18 months, I'm going to ask you one question. What's your strategy? I'm going to ask you one question. What is your strategy? Has your team communicated a strategy to you? Right? Like really communicated the strategy. Like, this is what we're going to do. This is why we're doing it. Like, have you gone into mediation blind and nobody prepped you for the mediation because they said, oh, we're just going to see what happens, right? All of these, I'm going to tell you as you hear them from your team, are red flags that your team doesn't have a strategy, because we don't operate, my clients and I, we don't operate without a strategy, right? Like session 1, 90-minute strategy session 1, we exit with a strategy. We exit with a position statement, maybe a settlement offer, and a strategy of how we're going to move forward based on where we are in the situation. So if nobody's talking to you about that, red flag, right? And you already know this. You already know that the legal system has hoops and loopholes that you need to jump through. Okay. And they're legal issues, not financial issues. So you have to ask yourself as well, like, is your team asking you or telling you what you should do with an asset? Are they telling you what you should do with your stuff? And they're not really financial people, right? So just because they sold a house doesn't mean that they can give you the accurate information for your final divorce settlement agreement. So these are the things that in our system, everybody has to get prepared before they come to the table to negotiate, because that's actually going to make you a lot better in this process. But we start them in the divorce vault. So the vault is like all of our templates, all of our checklists, all of our tutorials, and then we're doing simulations right now. So I think what you guys have really wanted to know is like, what actually happens in mediation when we go there? What actually happens when you start to negotiate? Like, how do you go into mediation? So instead of showing you like these crazy mock mediations and stuff like that, where people are so dramatic, it's not dramatic. Like, think about the interactions that you have with your toxic spouse. It's low key, like passive aggressive. It's they're going to say things that trigger you but don't trigger everyone else, you know. And so in some situation, a simulation or these checklists or running through scenarios, best case, worst case, is going to be the best way to start. So when you start with the divorce vault, you're starting with all the templates. Why do we create these specific templates? For the position statement, the settlement offer, the follow the money, the plan in the dark, how to create a settlement offer. Like, all of those things were created because I don't think you need to know how to do everything. I think you need to focus on the things that move the needle. If you're going to hire any other expert right now or in the future, you have to ask them one question: how does this impact the final result, right? So you hire a forensic and you're like, oh, I think there's missing money. And you pay them $25,000, because I kind of had a client last week that paid them $25,000. And then she met with them. And guess what they said? We haven't found anything yet. And we're pretty much through your retainer, your $25,000. We don't have anything. We didn't find anything. She told them, she actually showed them where to look, and didn't happen, right? Okay, so let's go into some of our lovely people and ask some questions about what's going on in some of these divorces. Okay, so we got a couple questions, probably a couple little trolls in our fun thing in our some of our socials. Okay, so I'm going to go back and answer some questions, take a little break right now, and then we will keep going with kind of some of the things that I wanted to talk about and give you guys. Okay, we have some people saying that we're amazing. Thank you. We appreciate you too. Any advice for initiating a divorce and having your spouse be 50-50 on the business with yourself? Great question. These are things or issues. Anytime you want to stay in a business, the court is not going to necessarily like that. Okay. Anytime you want to do anything creative, nuance to your particular family, the court is probably not going to like it. So if they assume that if you can't stay together as a couple, then you probably can't stay together in a business. So you're going to have to negotiate the terms of that arrangement outside of court. There's plenty of, I've seen couples that have stayed business owners, but you have to have now we have to have a very specific exit strategy, right? So you're going to have to talk a lot about what this means. We're going to stay 50-50 until what? Until something happens. How are you going to buy yourself out? It is sort of like a purchase agreement in some capacity. So I think you're dealing like that. You might have to bring in like a business attorney, or we could talk to you a little bit more about that in a strategy session. But your spouse could still say, because you guys might both want to receive like salaries. You might both want to receive health insurance and things like that. So it could be a discussion, but you're going to have some more rubric around it to really protect it, because now you're going to have a pretty good buy sell. Don't waste money on your attorney to do this for you. Yeah. Attorneys, and you can get different information from different attorneys. Even there's a lot of financial people out there talking about divorce on all of these platforms. And again, I think you have to just be mindful, like ask them, what are their fees? What is included in the fees? What is the deliverable? What are you going to have at the end of the day? Are you going to be communicating with your expert? Because sometimes the lawyers want to gatekeep and not let you communicate with the expert. Why? Because sometimes that is discoverable. If they haven't talked to you about discoverable or not discoverable, again, I don't know what these teams are doing out here, but it's not always educating you. And so I think at the end, and using AI, ChatGPT, Claude, all of that, absolutely we think is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Lawyers do not like it. We like it. But you still have to sanity test what information you're getting. So that's where we say download, something, do some of the work on your own, pull together some summaries, put together a list of, questions, start with your position statement. Once you start to put some of those things together, then have a strategy session with an expert. If you want to hire a forensic, that's perfectly fine, but you have to really understand how is it going to impact settlement, right? So a lot of people come to me and they're like, hey, we have a business, but I don't know if it's worth anything. Should I value it or should I not? Great idea to have a strategy session. If you already have a business valuation, let me take a look at it in the strategy session. Like, let's make sure it makes sense. At least do some due diligence to make sure it makes sense. But a lot of times I might be able to say, yeah, it's worth something. Let's value it. Or it's not worth a lot, but there's a number that we could put in for a settlement offer and then go from there. So I think that, you got to kind of figure out what people, so in essence, what I think the shift is a lot of times is that when you started getting divorced, you hired these professionals to literally do it for you. And then when you got in the divorce, you're like, what are they doing? What's everybody doing? And it costs a lot. I mean, no lie, on Friday, I talked to a client that got a $39,000 bill for 1 month of deposition. So it was deposition prep. It was doing depositions. Her deposition was a day. His deposition was a day. And she got a bill for $39,000. And she even went back to the lawyers and she was like, why did you send me a bill for $39,000? Like, why didn't you stop? And why don't you cease and desist, right? Of course, they're not going to do that. And you're not, so now what happens? You get a $39,000 bill, okay, for anybody in your divorce, an expert or a lawyer. You get a $39,000 bill and you can't pay it. The expert could say they won't show up to court. I've actually had some experts that have not shown up for court, right? I told some stories about that in the past. They're probably on somewhere. The lawyer could stop doing work for you. The lawyer could get frustrated. The lawyer could stop advocating for you. So now you're kind of flying blind, and now things start to pick up and you need a response with your lawyer, but they don't want to do much because you owe them. And now they shouldn't be doing this. I get that. Lawyers can come in and tell me I'm wrong. I'm basing all of this on my actual experience dealing with probably hundreds of clients a year in some capacity, either from a consulting or actually taking their cases. And we have cases like in half the states right now. So maybe it's not all true, but you are now going to lead this process. Even if you don't have access to the money, access to the documents, and even if you don't have a clue of what to do, you got to stop saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know the money. I don't know this. Nobody else is going to come in and save this day. Okay. So if you want to get out, you either get out and give it all up, or you fight and you come to a realistic view of, a lot of times toxic spouses have depleted assets, right? So we have to figure out, do we want to spend money to chase money? Sometimes their business is, if it's a solo practitioner, may not have a ton of value, right? So they might be right, but there also could be, like, let's take that for example. They don't make a lot of income. They make enough income to pay their salary. Do they have assets? Do they have accounts receivable, cash, payables, proprietary services? Do they have, residuals coming in, deferred income? But you got to look through the documents to find some of these clues. And then once you find the clues, that becomes leverage for your negotiation in mediation. I want you to get out of court if you're going to have some more control around this process, but you also need to control it from an educated standpoint, right? Okay, so what if the toxic spouse refused to work to get alimony? Well, I mean, here's the thing is the court's going to say you both should be working. I mean, this is, this is a reality that we sometimes have to face. Like, I understand that you guys agreed to have one spouse working and one spouse staying at home. But at the point of divorce, they're going to pressure you by cutting you off the money or keeping you out of some of the money. And you're going to be in a situation where you may have to get a job. And in my mind, I think we just have to face the financial reality of what the current incomes will matter. So we have lots of people that will plan ahead of time for 2 years in advance to deplete their income, sell their businesses, get rid of their assets, whatever it is. There's going to be some sabotaging of your financial situation going into divorce. You have to understand that. You still need to face the financial reality that you might have to get a job, you might have to do some of these things. And if the toxic spouse refuses to work or can't pay alimony, the court isn't necessarily going to go look back years before and say, oh, they made so much money, we should say that they're going to make that now. Like, the court's going to look at both of you and be like, well, I get it. He has a point. Well, she has a point. They both have points. That's the problem, is they're not going to see the subtlety of the lies. They're not going to care about the infidelity or abuse. They're going to care about the money, the proof, the evidence, the experts, the lawyers. They're going to care about all of those things and how it's presented, but you're waiting all the way till court. So a lot of things that we try to talk about is strategically how to get to mediation, or strategically how to just make an offer. Who cares about mediation? Make an offer. I don't know what to put in the offer. Then find a strategist that helps you put your offer together. That's it. Like, if there's just one thing that you should be doing, write a position statement, make an offer. That's it. Oh, well, I don't have all the information. Okay, make up a bad offer. Make up numbers based on something. Like, I've never really talked to somebody that didn't have an idea. They had an idea. They listened. Like, over the years, you've listened, you know where things are. So I think that kind of going through some of that is going to be the reality. What happens if they hide money and it's discovered after the divorce is final? That's a legal question. You're going to have to get some legal advice on that. What I will tell you from a financial person is that some states will determine what happens. So it really, if you'll now, this will come back to the disclosures. So you're disclosing your financial position. Both people have, for most states, have to provide a disclosure. This is what I have. This is my assets, my debts, my properties, my income, my expenses, right? So those are the normal disclosures for all states. They just look different. We have templates for that, but they look different in any state. So download what your state has. But if you go back to looking at that, you can look at your state and say, what if somebody doesn't include their information on the disclosure, right? So I have a couple clients right now. The states are different. Like the state of Nevada, if they don't disclose something and you find out afterwards, you get it all, right? But that still means litigation, money, tactics. So I'd rather you kind of find something, expose it, and be like, haha, I found it in mediation in a way that you can use it for leverage to actually get settled. Because again, I'm not interested in keeping you in the system and in with experts paying over month. I'm interested in getting you out, which is settled, right? Outside of court. Let's see. Okay. So then other states might not have that you get everything, but a lot of states. So look at your state and see if they haven't disclosed it on the disclosure, what could happen in the future. Okay. Oh gosh, all of these fun trolls. You know, I got to be honest with you. I don't really play around with trolls because I ain't got that kind of time. I just block them. So sorry, you guys are going to be blocked. Love that. So, unfortunately, I just blocked somebody that asked about my services because I think he was kind of being mean to other people. So maybe I'll unblock them later. Our services. So like something like this, like our base process is typically $5,000. So, but that's usually working with both people. That's usually with the property statement, like we might look at a business valuation a little bit. Like it's helping both of you move through the system to get to a settlement to go then feed it back to your attorneys and be done. Okay. So that's one way. A lot of ways that people work with me is just 90-minute strategy sessions. And I really encourage that. Like if there's downloads that you can download from any provider, if you can do some of this on your own each week, that's going to be best. And then work with somebody as a strategist. So I might meet with somebody every week and go through strategy. Some things happen, some things change. So there's a lot of information on our websites of how you can work with us and how you can meet with us and discuss your process. I can honestly give my testimonial that divorce allies are so amazing compared to the attorney. Oh, thank you, girl. Yeah, you had a very interesting situation. They didn't even know how to handle the quadro. Yep, I know. That was crazy. Okay, so all I want is equity out of house, my truck, and motorcycles, cash for my car. Okay, I think... So the best thing to not worry about losing 50% is to never get married. Okay, yeah, well, that's great, but we're already married, so kind of got to get out of it. Where were you 20 years ago? I know, I'm so sorry. I was just getting started. I didn't know that I was going to have to like break the system open, you know? I didn't think it would be so bad. My spouse had a 401k and a pension plan and tried saying they were all together in balance. That is kind of true though. This individual, the people did say there was only one account and it ended up, and I will say also, it ended up that there were two accounts. Like she was absolutely right. Everybody said that she was crazy. And you know what she had to do? She had to get on the phone and call the people and make sure and do the digging. And I mean, it was probably hours that on the phone, digging for information, finding information. And then during the meeting, we all got on the phone and called the institution, and the institution, like literally while we were all on the phone, and all the lawyers and everything was like, yep, there's two accounts. And then the next week, I think, he sent the second account because he had access to it. So again, you cannot let your foot off the gas. You have to advocate for yourself. Like that's biggest takeaway from this. Advocate for yourself. Fight for yourself. When we're coming in, we're just kind of actually maybe the first person that's listening to you, but we can listen to you and then we can look and see if there's a monetary component. Okay. So a lot of what our system is just really saying there's no issue that we can't put a number on. And as long as you can put a number on it, then you can kind of figure it out, right? So, and we get a lot of spouses to work together, even if they're toxic, because again, divorce is just kind of a bad situation. So, but specifically business owners, like we really try to get business owners because you'll spend way too much money getting business valuations and all the stuff. It's better if I get everybody in the room, I present the value to everybody together, and then you can kind of say, fine, I don't like it, but it's not screwing me over. Okay, let's see. We might have some questions over here. Okay. Married for 35 years, adult children no longer at home, worked for 20 years, husband handles and guards all the finance. I do not work now. How to start from here? I thought in Texas it's half of all assets. So most places it is half of all assets, like unless you can prove that it was separate. So that's, whether you're community state or not, separate assets could maintain their separateness, but you got to prove it. You have to have the documentation. You have to have some evidence. You have to have, like even in the court, you're going to have to show it. So, and Texas has some unique things because I don't think you can get more than like $5,000 in alimony. They have a cap. They don't like to do that. So you have to understand your state. Every state is different. In our system, we're looking at not just which state is doing what. We're really looking at what's the best way to financially separate these things. So in all situations, your best case should always be to total up all your assets, less your liabilities, gives you your equity in your marriage, and then you split that into two buckets. And so like if you have $1 million of all the stuff, and then you got 300,000 of debt, then you have $700,000 left over. You're going to try to see what property and debt are you going to take that are going to get to total 350,000, right? Not split everything 50-50. Okay. You don't split everything and get a quadro for everything. I try to take, okay, one person gets the house, and then you keep your retirement, they keep their retirement, you split the bank accounts, you keep your car, they keep their car, and then you get into the gray areas, okay? So that's where I see a lot of people getting stuck and fighting is in the gray areas. And gray areas could be a lot of things, and we'll kind of talk about those. But, the strategy sessions that we do in our system, we have the spouses meet separately. And so in all of our strategy sessions, you're going in trying to figure out what's your best case and worst case. So you might not know what $350,000 to put in your bucket, but you got to start to figure that out, right? And, everybody will be on here and saying, well, don't take the retirement or take the house, but look at after tax, but what if we sell the house? Then we have commissions and we got issues, Again, what is your position? Present your position and put it formally in a position statement. Why are we putting some of these things in writing? Well, as a financial expert, most people don't want me to put things in writing until trial. Well, who does that benefit? Everybody else but you. So let's put some things in writing. Why? Because they're getting lost in the telephone game. Okay, so you tell your lawyer goes and tells the other lawyer tells your spouse. I am the expert. I come in and tell you and your lawyer. And then you and your lawyer don't know what to do next. So then I have to do the next part. So I've started putting things more in writing so that you have the position statement. You have the settlement offer, which is the spreadsheet. So now in the spreadsheet, are we getting it so that we have that 350,000 is on? Now it's uneven, right? Well, if it's uneven, that's where you're doing a balancing act. But if you have issues like hidden money, hidden assets, missing money coming out, that's where you're going to have to prove out. So that's our guide is called Follow the Money. Follow the Money is going to show you several different ways to show enough that your spouse is a liar, they're not credible, they've been hiding things, but you can't just go in and be like, I think, because one day they told me the business was worth 5 million and now they're saying it's worth 1 million. This is crazy. That's not enough. You got to find some emails or some text messages or some conversations or some bank statements or some documentation. Go start looking in those boxes in the basement, right? Go start looking in the office files. You got to be low key planning in the dark. That is a guide that we have coming out soon, is how do you get prepped for this? But the strategy sessions will help you get your best case and worst case. So best case is everything, split it, right? Worst case is, what if the values are not what you think they are? They're what the other spouse thinks they are, right? What if everybody disregards your marital waste? What if everybody disregards your claimed separate assets, right? So at the end of the day, again, your best case scenario is just split everything, assume everything is together, assume everything is there. Oh, you think some hidden things are there? Fine, put a number on it. You got to put a number on everything in order to negotiate. So we have settlement strategists that are going to come in and help both of you know what is your best case, what is your worst case, right? And where are the steps in between? And what you'll start to see is two people, if they do that process, there's a lot of overlapping places that you guys might actually agree. And that's the first step. Is like, okay, we agree on these things. Great. Now we're going to try to figure out where the gray areas are. Marital waste, hidden assets, separate property, or, and sort of the final one is when values are unclear, when income is unclear. So we see more manipulation in the income and the values than we do in, marital waste is hard to prove. Hidden assets, kind of hard to prove too. You got to see that it was there and then it's gone. So that's why the follow the money kind of shows you through, like, come up with some summaries. Don't just make it up, right? You can't have a he said, she said, because the toxic spouse is going to make things up. They're not going to have the proof. So if you show up with proof, you will win that argument either with the mediator, with the, like, whatever. And I don't hold things back. If your lawyers say, let's hold that back for trial, no, ma'am, no, sir, do not hold back. If it is the truth and you're leading from the truth and that's what it is, that will prevail. That's not going high and they're going low and we're going to meet in the middle. If you have validation that something is worth that amount, then you don't try to split the baby. You go for that amount, right? Marital waste is when somebody spends money on an outside relationship. So the court is going to say, hey, you work, you can spend your money, but you can't take marital money and go spend it on taking an outside relationship on a trip or to food, like to dinner and stuff like that, or buy them gifts. But you can waste half of your money. So like a marital waste claim, if they went and spent $100,000 on buying some jewelry for an outside relationship, you could try to get $50,000 back. Yep, we take cases in every state. Financial experts can work in any state. We have cases in half the states right now, and we typically work as a consultant. So you could still, your team, your lawyer could still hire a financial expert to testify in court for you if they want, because sometimes these lawyers want their own expert in their own backyard. And I know everybody thinks that the divorce court system is corrupt, and I mean, you're not wrong, but the reason is, like, I'll give you the example from me. Like, I've been doing this for 25-ish years in primarily Missouri and Illinois, Kansas, right? So I'm kind of in the Midwest. And back in the day, we would just stay in the states that we operated in, right? Because you'd meet lawyers and you'd make relationships with those lawyers, and then those lawyers work with you as a financial expert all the time. So what you guys are entering into is these lawyers all knew each other. So the people in the financial are the divorce court system. First of all, most experts, CPAs, business valuation people, and lawyers do not like divorce. So there's only then a small subset of us that are willing to do divorce. And then that small subset knows everybody. So I currently know 8 judges that when they were lawyers, they used me as their expert exclusively. So if that gives you a perspective that, of course, I know all the lawyers. Of course, there's only a handful of experts. Of course, I know 8 judges now. So if that's just my situation, all of these little towns are the same. You're the outsider, and then you have mediators that are also the lawyers that and former judges. It starts to get a little bit too much. You need financial people to come in and help you settle. And that's really the missing piece in why the system is inefficient, is because they're trying to solve financial issues in a legal way, and they create these loopholes about it. But let's see. Thanks for maybe I need to have you be a moderator in some of our stuff. So Texas, yes, we absolutely can work in. My lawyer told me because I wasn't married for 10 years, I wouldn't get anything. Yeah, and again, they're going to be really aggravated with you when you start checking all of their stuff by AI and ChatGPT and Claude and all of those. So just still do it. Just don't tell them, oh, I talked to Chat and it said this. Just don't tell them that. But you also need to understand that anytime that you're using Chat, just like also get it checked by that expert. Like you do a bunch of business valuation stuff and you think you have the business value, you might. Like, I mean, no lie, I think AI is going to be able to do all of our jobs. I'm actually trying to create an app that does a real fast valuation because like it's not that hard. Like there's just rubrics to it. So even if you went in and you're like, okay, I entered all my data and I think the business value is this, and you come to me and you're like, I went into AI and I think the business is worth 2.5 million. I'm the type of expert that's going to be like, okay, tell me what you did. Let's see if it's true. And if it's true, it's like, good, great. What do you need it for? Like, do you need, like when I'm coming in, even if I can get to the value fast, I'm more credible. Like I will offer up a meeting with the toxic spouse to go through the valuation. Be like, just ask me questions. Okay. It's going to be a lot faster because you don't care about the number. You don't believe the number. So let's just ask me questions. Why am I going to spend $10,000 of my client's money to write a report that everybody's going to be like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to negotiate and do whatever I want. Toxic spouses don't negotiate from logic. And the faster you realize this, the faster you can be strategic, okay? They operate from a fallacy in a fake world. And the more you continue to go to that fake world and not just base your settlement off of reality, the more you'll get caught up with them, okay? So the gray areas are where we will typically fight. And we do work in Massachusetts. We don't need to know all the laws because, again, I'm not a lawyer. We're not your legal representation. We are your financial strategists that get you settled, which means you might have an entire team of lawyers and financial experts and forensics, but they're not answering your questions and they're not talking to you. And they're also not trying to get this done for less money. They're trying to... And it's almost because I don't even think they know how to settle it fast or easy. I really don't. But, I mean, because I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and we have finally just have to be like, screw it. Like, we'll come after the system, and you'll see like a lot of people that are kind of going against the system in the system are losing. Like, they're being maligned. They're being, like, you want to go complain to the bar association in your state. Like, that's the same lawyers that are protecting each other. Like, you're not going to fight the system right now. So the only way for you to get something is to figure out how to get your spouse to also exit the system. And I'm not even saying you really have to exit the system. You guys just might want to work together to come up with a financial settlement and take it back to your lawyers and put it back into the system, right? Just file it with the system. Like the people were saying, oh, can we split the business? You can, but you got to figure it out. I'm not going to court just a pretrial, but we want to settle before the pretrials. Okay, yeah, I had a client that called on Friday and was like, emergency, I need to talk to you. I have a pretrial on Monday. I looked up their case. They do not, I know what you guys think are pretrials, and that may be what your state calls it, but like the client that called, it's not really a pretrial. Like it's just a settlement conference or status updates. Like they'll be called a lot of different things. You can make so you and your spouse, if you decide that this is a great idea, You can both work with me and our system of experts and get in. We even, I mean, my partner is a former lawyer and a CPA. And so, you know, we've been in the system for a long time, but we have tons of like marital settlement agreements. We have tons of templates. So you got to kind of figure out, like, we do a lot of the process and then feed it back. You either hire, we call it file and finish. You might need a lawyer to file your case and finish your case, but all the middle part you can do on your own. So it's just that most of the time you have to, both of you have to work with somebody that you trust. And quite frankly, when I'm in the middle of a couple, I don't care about either one of you prevailing. I care about us facing the reality and coming up with an agreement that's going to mirror reality. So it's going to be a supportable agreement. Okay, so, but most of the time people are going to fight about values, right? So one value is going to be super high, but one value is going to be super low. Okay, we got a bunch of questions. Sorry, I'm on it now. What is your consulting fee? I think I covered that. Let's see. Okay. And connect with other people on the chat. Please do, because everybody's going through this, and you guys, we got to work together to get out of the system, because again, I tried to fix it inside and it's not true. Okay, yeah, we used to have consults that would be free. Now they're $99, but like low key, if you send me a message, I might have a link for you, but you got to send me a message and you got to get a hold of me. So, and that's not always easy. I know. But it's $99. You can meet with any of us. And then the 90-minute session is $500. And we sometimes, like for a strategy session for 90 minutes for $500, like you might have a lot of the pieces of the puzzle or a settlement offer or something. We did this the other day and they're like, yeah, that's my settlement offer. And I was like, I got to be honest, like, I don't even know what the hell it means. Like, I literally can't even read it. Oh, somebody says they have, do I go to mediation? Yes, I will attend mediation online. Somebody says they've messaged me many times already, but they can't get a hold of us. Because you kind of got to book the strategy session. I mean, that's just the easiest way for us to communicate. So book a session or send an email and we'll try to communicate in that capacity. My wife has 829,000. I have 150, married 24 years. She earns 120 and I heard 44. Oh, I think he was going to send that to you. Okay. So again, yeah, just figure out what you need and book just a consult for $99. That will even, we can look at things and tell you if you even need a strategy session, right? There might be, maybe we can just, for the $99, we'll give you a guide and say, okay, work on these 3 things. Once you get those together, then book a strategy session. So, because people want to be super prepared for their strategy sessions, we might put together your offer in a 90-minute strategy session. So like, I wouldn't wait too long because we get a lot done. And then what happens at the end is I kind of I use the transcript from our conversation to make your position statement while you're still in the session. And then I also will dictate the settlement offer based on what we come up with, and I'll send it to you in the settlement, in the session. So like before the session ends, you might have a spreadsheet, a position statement, and a settlement offer that then you have to go think on and work with or talk to your lawyer, and then come back to me in some capacity. So let's see. So the price on the website is still like $5,000 for a retainer. If you need us to work overtime, that's essentially 10 sessions, because that's how we would operate. We kind of try to do everything in these 90-minute sessions. We're just really fast. We actually do use AI. Like even our forensic people, they use very sophisticated softwares and AI. Like I just, like my client who spent $25,000 on a forensic, like they were entering data you got to ask these people what's going on. And I would ask them if they're using AI. And if somebody says they're not using AI, like, I would think they're kind of crazy. So, former divorce paralegal here, marriage 22 years, why discovery needed when he could access the money? Well, I don't know if I understand your question totally. But discovery is, I don't know, it's a crock. Like, everybody should, I almost think that in the financial disclosures, you should have, like, normally you have to give that information, but people just don't. And again, you're like, yeah, I'm in a situation where they didn't, and the court didn't do anything about it. I have a divorce that's from 2019, and it's just an abomination that they're still in. And every single time it's like, oh, get more information, get updates. So the delays and the distraction are really toxic behaviors. Like, a toxic spouse is going to do that. So you have to be prepared for that. I'm interested in this. We are aligned for the most part. We need wording on how his pension is split. Yeah, I mean, these are easy types of situations. There are even times where you as a couple could come to me as a strategy session and just say, hey, can we, it's loosely mediation. So I've been a trained mediator for 10 years, probably longer. I just don't know if I believe even in the mediation system, because a lot of the mediators are the same lawyers, So again, I believe that if your finances are your biggest issues, then your mediator needs to have a financial background. If you're going to continue to have a mediator that has a legal background, and then I tell pro se people all the time, like, use the mediator as a lawyer. Like, that mediator is going to be like, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not going to give you legal advice. They can't help themselves. So use the mediator to ask them questions. But you guys could book, a session or a couple sessions. You don't have to be at the $5,000 mark. That is for people who typically we're walking them through the whole process. Okay. So a couple comes, or I have a lot of couples that are in the middle of divorce and realize what a waste it is. And then they come to us and say, okay, can you do the business valuation, a preliminary valuation, and the settlement? And that's where our 5,000. So usually it's because those are business owners and they have a pension value, restricted stock units, an income analysis, because we got to figure alimony and child support, or they need the full spreadsheet. And then we kind of help you guys not really negotiate, but kind of discuss it. So, and sometimes with those retainer clients, they have to go get appraisals, or, they're not always getting along. They're a little bit more contentious. So, and I mean, I deal with people that really despise each other, but it's still like, do you want to pay two people to hate each other? Like, that's your choice. Like, if you want to pay double for everything, great. Hire two lawyers, hire two experts, it's just never been the way. So we've been doing joint valuation work for the better part of probably 10 to 15 years, working as a joint valuation expert, even with the court system, but definitely with lawyers that both know us. That's how we kind of started this, is that we knew so many lawyers and they were like, well, the other side already hired you, so we'll just agree to use you. And so we developed kind of a process of how we work with couples, and sometimes the couples even bring their lawyers. So there's no rules. Our rule is, how do we get settled as fast as possible? So if that's what works. Okay, so let's see. Sorry, I keep on trying to keep these so that I can answer the questions. Do you help file in Nebraska? So we don't help file. So, but we would hook you up with, I went to school in Nebraska at Creighton University. And one of the forensic experts that we work with is also in Omaha. So, and she probably could, but we try not to necessarily get involved in the filing process. We can help you with your disclosures. We can help you with the, put together the whole system. And then what sometimes we do is connect you with either a limited scope attorney who's going to file it for you because they have access to the system, a legal document assistant, an LDA that's more popular like in California and maybe New York. Of course, the coasts always do things faster. Or somebody. And then sometimes like in California and other states, you can file on your own. So again, we get you all the stuff that you need, but you might have to do the file and finish, if that makes any sense. Because it's kind of, okay, third year DX lied about valuation of personal asset. My attorney wants me to reopen for fraud. Oh yeah, after divorce. I mean, again, anytime, this is a great situation. Anytime there's a monetary issue, what is the value of the issue? How's it going to impact the settlement? So you think the value of a personal asset, they lied on it. Can you prove it? I mean, do you have all the documentation? Because it's just not always too easy to prove is the process, is the problem. Like then you need an expert, then you need a lawyer. With my session, we're able to dictate offer. My spouse's offering was too low. Yes. We work out of, so again, financial experts can work anywhere. So if you find anybody online that you're like, that's the one for parenting, they can work everywhere. Your lawyer can only work in the state that they are on the bar for, right? So they register in any state. One of my lawyers, I have a business lawyer that I work with on all of our strategic matters. He's licensed in 48 states. So very few lawyers are like that. So that's why we're in the St. Louis area. And so I do travel to Chicago and Kansas City fairly often. But if we go to the Chicago area, I could certainly meet with you. Or you guys, yeah, but a lot of times we meet remotely. So I've been traveling to Kansas City a lot. I have a lot of Kansas City clients. I do fly into a lot of places. Like we had to fly to South Carolina to prep and look at a bunch of documents. So we'll stay for a week, look at the documents. We'll go in for a weekend, so there's a lot of like, we'll fly in for mediation if we need to be in person. But again, I mean, try to do it electronically just to save yourself, money and get a solution faster. But certainly. Okay, let's see. Divorced 3 years, but tied financially to ex and business debt. Anything that I can do, get off the debt. No, I'm just joking. But, that may be a reason to not continue with a business after a divorce, right? Because now you're tied to it. Or sometimes I've seen people be on SBA loans and it's hard to get off of those. So somebody says, I don't believe in the mediation system either. Yeah, I mean, you got to find some and there's not a lot of mediators that have a financial background. So that's another issue. But that's where co-mediation could be good, or get a financial expert, a CDFA. Again, if you don't have business valuation issues, a normal CDFA would probably be fine. But like CDFA isn't going to cut it if you have really complex situations, or if you have a somebody who is using the money to manipulate. So if you're divorcing a financial advisor, a lawyer, a private equity, a investment banker, like these are all sophisticated, a doctor, like these are all sophisticated people that are going to try to manipulate the situation. And your lawyers don't know money. Like you think everybody knows the money in the room. They don't. So that's where you need somebody really telling you the true picture of the money, right? So that's where our strategy sessions, when I say come to your strategy session with your like major issues, I want to know your 3 to 5 issues. And I want to talk about those. And I want to tell you whether, like I had somebody come in and they're like, I think the business is worth way more. And I'm like, it's not. I'm sorry. It's just probably not. But, but talk to me about it. Like, let's see what this looks like. And so that's where, maybe there's something that we can use for leverage to try to make an offer, to try to settle it. as opposed to you don't have enough information to fight it in court. And that's usually what we will see. Let's see. Okay. Yep, we coach. Well, I mean, I don't really think this is a coach. Like, I'm not a coach. I'm a financial expert witness. I value businesses for a living. I sell businesses. I help people negotiate. So I negotiate big business deals. I just took all of those skills and put them into guides for how to negotiate in a divorce, because a divorce is a little bit different than a big deal. A big deal, you can just walk away and be like, screw you. You don't want to pay my price? Bye. In a divorce, it's a closed negotiation system. And we have that happen in a couple other situations. And it's just, there's some nuances of the strategy that are different. But for the most part, we work with either the business owner or the outspouse. So it'll be the husband or wife. It doesn't matter whether you have the money, whether you don't have the money. We in our system, we prep both people so that they're both smart and prepared. But definitely have to work with individuals. There's a lot of couples that want to engage in a process, because working together is not what this is. Both of you are engaging in a process that you want to find the truth and then make some decisions based on the truthful reality of the finances and then let it go. Like, I've seen people let go of money if they knew what it was worth, right? But if you don't know what it's worth, then you're guessing and you feel like you got screwed. That's the problem, right? That's where everybody gets a little bit concerned. So for the most part, we're typically working with individuals until they can bring the spouse in, and then we can get it done with them together. But most of my couples that I work together, like, they don't really like each other. They're not talking to each other. They're knowing that I'm going to put the brakes on any manipulation. That's what they know. And they know if they bring an issue, that we can talk about it, and we can, like, personal expenses run through the business. Everybody be like, oh my God, that's so horrible. No, we back it out. There's a money. So we attach a dollar amount to every issue, and that's how we deal with it. If that kind of summarizes things. Because, moving through the settlement, if we prep everything, if you prep for our system, if you get all the documents, if you put together a position statement and a settlement offer, it's actually not that hard to get settled, because there's only going to be a few gray areas that you guys disagree. So you need a financial mediator in the middle that helps you have an educated discussion about the money. Okay? And then you put it in an agreement, and then you give it back to a lawyer, a legal document assistant, and all you're doing is those people have easy access to submit the information online into the divorce system. So then you would just talk to somebody and be like, hey, how much is it going to cost for you to do A, B, and C? Everybody in divorce, you want to get fixed fees, you want to get lower costs, you need to be interviewing the people that you hire for your divorce, asking them very clear, do you have a fixed fee? No? Move on. I mean, at this day and age, times are different than they were a year or two ago. Like, AI is leveling the playing field, and everybody is scared as hell about what's going to happen, but the court system is still inefficient. So at the end of the day, if you want to get this settled, you do the work if your spouse will not do it with you, and you're just leading the charge. Like, you can't convince somebody to negotiate, but you can certainly set the table better. You can make sure that there is the right information, and people can easily move through it. Somebody says, my spouse stopped paying for everything 8 months ago. Now he's demanding my car. Can he do this in New Jersey? That is the biggest issue that we see, is that couples will cut the other person off, and the court is going to look at you and be like, well, go get a job, or go make some money, or, like, they're not going to necessarily always care that somebody cut the other person off, right? I understand. Or like I had a situation recently where the one person didn't have access to all the money and the other person did. And when they got to court, you know what the judge said? Well, it seems like that was the arrangement that you guys had in your marriage. So why are you upset now? So I think everybody perceives that the court is going to be fair. That's the F word. Like, no, it's going to be equitable. You should be looking at something that's reasonable, enforceable. You know, like if you're going to put together a parenting plan, because we do want you to kind of negotiate a full global offer. So if there's a parenting plan in play, we do pull in our parenting specialist so that you can get a parenting plan. You know, a lot of times your lawyer has a template of a parenting plan. Yeah, they do. You could ask them for it. They might not give it to you. They might want to charge you for it, but like there's templates out there. AI does a great parenting plan. I got to be honest. So anyway, but you would maybe do a parenting plan and then have the specialist do a strategy session with the parenting plan specialist and say, what's wrong with the plan? If the plan is not enforceable, if the plan, like, for example, one of the best things I think you can do is have your co-parenting strategy be the assumption is approval. So if I say, hey, Johnny wants to join hockey, and I put it in the parenting app and I say, are you good with that? And you don't respond in 48 hours, the presumption is you approve. And for a toxic spouse, I would rather you have the agreement say the presumption is approval than you waiting around for how long are you going to wait around for that toxic spouse to approve something? Nah, man, that's stupid. So that's not a good enforceable contract if you're the one that has to be the parent to the other spouse who acts like a child. Okay, that's not going to work. So those would be some tactics that like you could create the whole parenting plan, but now you have the strategist comes in and gives you 5 great things that you need to have in the parenting plan. That's worth its weight in gold. Everything else, the hours it takes to get there, use AI, use, you know, something else to get there. How do we schedule a 99 consult? I think your website only has longer consult to book. So the divorceallies.com is one way that you can join. Anchorthedeal.com. We have a lot of websites. But definitely, I have no lawyer and I feel so lost. I need help. So I would actually start with the position statement. So that's usually what we send out like on some of our socials as a download for the position statement. And that would be the first place that you start. And then the settlement offer download is another place. And you could download both of those for under probably or for like right around $100, and that'll get you started as well. So if you book the $99 strategy session, then sometimes or the $99 consult or the strategy session, and there's a guide that you really want, just let me know. Sometimes we just give it to you, right? You know, because our clients, we created that so our clients would have a better way to go through the process with us and not be wasting their own money on asking us all these questions in the process. So we really did create it so that we could save even our own clients money. So that's why when you become a client, we can send those to you. We're also going to be offering all of our guides at a discounted price, but I'm going to be doing that off of some of our lives off of social. So in the upcoming months, we're going to be going live on social and we'll offer like, 50% off a package of all of our guides. And so that should be coming up soon. But again, reach out to me. I'll try to give you a discount or send you a guide. If you're struggling, I get it. You have to do some of this on your own. So if you're willing to do some of your own, I'm willing to share some of our resources. Okay. All right. My ex-husband cut me off completely. I mean, everybody's going to cut them off completely. That's what it is. That's how it happens. That is the prime thing to do to manipulate. Okay, how is the 401k calculated, especially if one of the parties took out 160 $160,000 for their own use. So that the $160,000 would be kind of a marital waste. So you would be looking at first asking them what happened to the 160,000. If the 160,000 was just used for their own personal use, they could still deplete their half, but they can't deplete your half. So you'd be asking for $80,000 of other assets to come off the table first, and then split the rest of it. How much do you charge to come to mediation? We charge $500 for 90-minute sessions. So like on Monday, I think I have to be available for a mediation. So they paid $500 and 90 minutes, they can access me. You know, sometimes I am there for mediation in Zoom. Sometimes I'm just available if they need to ask questions. So then they will call or text me and I can answer a question, or I can present. Sometimes I'm presenting like the valuation or the numbers to the mediator. But a lot of times what we found is it's a lot easier for me to create the position statement with you, create the settlement offer with you. We make the settlement offer a week in advance of the mediation. And then hopefully we have talked you through like the next steps, and we've prepped and kind of done a simulation for your own mediation. Is it cheaper than my lawyer doing it himself, or is it just better because you have more experience? For the money, I think that we're just faster and we can see a solution faster. And like I can value things. So like I don't have to wait for a value of something. Like I can value a pension. I have a template. I can value a pension like during a strategy session. I can value a business during a strategy session, at least like a prelim big picture value. So I just have the capability of knowing some of those numbers and coming up with it. And I don't necessarily need to rely upon another expert. So does it get cheaper? Yeah. Do all these things cost? Yeah. Like in the big picture, I think somebody, if they needed everything of all of our services, I think they would still only pay like $20,000 to use all of our, like use our forensic person, the parenting plan, the housing person. They would also get the whole agreement put in place, and they would get a bunch of meetings. I mean, so it's hard to say. Like most people will pay $20,000 just in retainers. So I think ideally our process is never going to be cost more than $25,000 to do everything. So, but the base package starts at $5,000. So you're adding all of those like fixed fee things on top of it. And and we're getting that website going. So that's why I'm kind of talking about it now, because we need a solution to go around the court system. The court system just isn't working for money. I'm in South Carolina. Yeah, construction contractors know how to hide money. Oh my God, do they ever? Yeah, no, that is for sure. So yes. So if you're dealing with construction contractors or construction, there's a lot of cash that never gets reported as well. So, you just have to have an idea. Okay, let's see. All right, so we've talked about a lot of things, and the file and finish, we kind of talked about that. So that's our process. What I want you to encourage you guys to start thinking is to have other people deal with the financial issues that you have, and to bring in lawyers just for the file and the finish. And then there are going to be legal issues. A lot of the kid stuff could have legal ramifications about it. A lot of abuse, or having difficulty getting your assets or dealing with things. That's a lot of legal stuff. Alimony and child support are actually legal things that are dollars. So again, the best case, we have a couple of lawyers that, allow our client and me to do a lot of the work. So the best situation is that you have a lawyer that understands that they're the legal quarterback and we're the financial quarterback, and we work together. So we either work as an advocate for you or we work in the middle. But eventually I want to see couples kind of choose this, just like they would choose the divorce process in the court system or collaborative divorce, they would actually choose our system. And so that's where okay. But also we want you to start putting, so position statement is where I see most people start if they don't know where to start or you don't have all the financial documentation, because you at least, like in your position statement, and we use AI to do that. So we use a recording and we have a list of questions that you would answer in order to create your position statement. So I would start with the position statement one or the settlement agreement. So I think the settlement agreement has the position statement in it. So that's $55. It also has the spreadsheet. So if you download that, you can get started on your spreadsheet. When you come to the strategy session, though, I will probably make your spreadsheet better, or I will change it so that it is a good version to send as an offer. And then we would work on your position statement as well. So I think those, no, I love, thank you so much. My wonderful moderator, JR. I love it. I won't say your first name, but thank you so much. She does not work for us, but she has definitely been a cheerleader during this process. So we appreciate you. And we do typically have people that join some of our lives and that are former clients or that know us. And eventually, we're actually going to allow other people to join. And I'm going to get some of the other experts involved. So that would be super fun to have like multiple people on here. We're also thinking, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but we're also thinking of having a way that you could come up to the stage. So if we had multiple people in here, you could come up to the stage. You may not have to like show your face because that seems weird, right? But you could ask your specific questions and we could maybe have like a 5-minute conversation. So we are looking at a lot of things to be doing live, because again, that could kind of help you for free. And you got to find people that are willing to, you know, give you some of the information. They can't gatekeep it and keep it all to themselves because, you know, it's going to take too long. So try to find some downloads. I would work on that download for sure. And then book a session. So I really appreciate you guys. And we will be going live more often. Tomorrow, our live will be at 10 a.m. And we'll be talking more about the system, more questions from a financial aspect. I might be showing you some of the guides so that you can see inside them, how we use them, how you can use them.
okay, hi, I love your social media, but first time on live, would it be worth it in your opinion, or would it be material enough of a difference potentially to request a modification in child support if my ex lied about a job offer they accepted a week before we signed our papers? A modification in child support still costs some significant money too. So I think you just have to weigh what the cost is going to be for that and what the potential change would be. But I don't and I don't know, because that's really a legal thing. So I can't give you legal advice on there, but I don't see a lot of modifications where the child support goes up. I see mostly modifications where the child support goes down. So that would be another question that I think you would have to ask somebody. Okay. And 10 a.m. Central. Yes, 10 a.m. Central. And in that situation, I might stream live to some of the socials, but we will definitely be streaming live to YouTube. And that's the Divorce Allies YouTube or Business Valuation STL YouTube. So we try to go live to both, and then those will be replays. And even today, if you were in this live and you came late, or because I mean, we've been on here for like an hour and a half. If you came late and you want to catch the whole thing, go over to the, it's hard for me to like save these when they get so long. Like the socials are really weird. So I try to, but you can catch it in the YouTube. So usually the recording is going to be in the YouTube. But tomorrow, 10 a.m. is our normal Divorce Allies session. If you want to become a member, you can join for $22. We send out lots of stuff every week. I think over the past 6 months, actually, we've sent out all of our guides over time to the members in the Divorce Allies. So again, we didn't create it to like make money. I mean, you know, we do sell them, but we sell them just so that, you know, all of our competitors don't try to just steal them and take them. But, you know, $22 a month to just get started. And every week you'll get strategy. Every week we talk about mindset. We talk about money. We talk about kids. We talk about parenting. And when we also have some pro se advocates and lawyers that come on and give you some advice about how to fight this in court. So, you know, it's really a fabulous group of people. We are adding more people as we go, because as we develop the divorce system, which is how you can have a fixed fee way of going through divorce with your spouse. If you can't get your spouse to do it, that's okay. Just book strategy sessions. Just download some of the stuff. You know, like there are other providers that are creating good stuff out there too. I'm hoping to have some of them come on our platform so that you guys can see some of the people that we believe are doing good work. And again, you know, I think just be very clear when you are hiring somebody that you ask them, what are their fees? What's the deliverable? What's the timing? When are they going to get this done? Because in the divorce system, we have 3 months of prep, 3 months of process, 6 months you're done. And you can even take the 3 months of prep and escalate that into 30 days. If you're in the middle of the process, you already have all your documents. But in order for you as a couple to go through our system and meet with our strategists, both of you have to agree to upload all the documents. Discovery is the root of all evil in the divorce court system. It is the cause of all of the money issues typically. And so if you want to work with us, both people have to commit to providing the documents, and both people have to have the documents for 30 days before we can meet and start negotiating. So that's only fair. And I think that our system is going to be an alternate to the court system in every state. So we are trying to partner with people. If there's people that you think are amazing that have helped you in your divorce, I would encourage you to lift them up online too, because there's a lot of charlatans out there, and it's hard for people who are going through the process to know who to talk to and who to not talk to. You know, so I appreciate you guys joining and paying attention. And I think that, you know, we will definitely have more people coming on. I don't know if you guys ever see like the online dating, like speed dating on TikTok that they have, where they have like lots of different people come up on the stage. Well, I'm thinking about like something like that for the divorce process, but you know, we have a couple experts, and then you have a person that could come up and kind of, I don't know, just get some advice and get some, because realistically, this is what I'm doing to try to give back to the community. You know, like I have benefited from making money in the divorce arena. It has allowed me to see some patterns and some roadblocks and some systems, and we are creating something that I think has never been created and is what is needed. So if you guys have any suggestions or people or things, you know, connect with us. It is best to connect with us by meeting with us and booking a consult or booking a strategy session. And then we can talk specifically about your situation. So I look forward to seeing you soon. And I appreciate, and we'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. If you have more questions, join us. I'll try to go live on some of the socials too, but we'll definitely be on YouTube. So, or join, and you can actually ask your question in live and in an anonymous way, and we'll answer it directly. So we'll talk soon. Thank you so much. And thank you, JR, for being my moderator. You know, maybe I need you in the future, because there were a couple people that were being a little snarky at the beginning, and I had to kind of X them out. So, okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys soon.